Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hello. Sandeep, Sandra, Sapna. Hi there. Tushar, Mahendra. Hi. Hello, Parvati. Okay, so we are all set to begin with our today's webinar. It's a lovely Monday afternoon and a very warm welcome to all our participants present here today. Vishaka and her friends were very chatty. They crack a lot of jokes at the lunch table. Yesterday, they were talking about a good looking man in the office. Revanti doesn't like the kind of language, but she keeps quiet. They are not saying explicitly to her, just joking. Is this sexual harassment? How can one be preventing, prohibiting, and offering due redressing towards any incident of sexual harassment? Let's hear it out from our speaker today, who will be enlightening us with the true meaning of sense of Posh. HR Association of India welcomes you all to the 2021 Dialogue, the masterclass series on the topic Posh in its true sense. To know more about HRAI and its events, I would request all our participants to visit the link and the details posted in the chat window. Request all the participants to kindly follow the webinar guidelines mentioned in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A sessions. Request all the participants to kindly give your feedback on this session. I now take the privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker for today, Ms. Raina Khalid Tandon. She is an international acclaimed speaker, mentor who has been on various conferences and summits representing India on gender equality, women's and child rights inclusiveness. She holds double degree in IT and law. She is the founder of Right to Rise and RKT Foundation, which is catering to training compliances and auditing on various organizations. She is an alumni of EXT Awards in Women's and Child Rights, has also human rights. She has been affiliated as Thrive Global 100 mentors at Sherry Blake Foundation, and also the UN REX Crumweir Foundation Fellowship Awardee 2019 and 2020. Raina has represented India at World Women's Summit 2020 and is also Global Ambassador of Sustainable SDG 5 UN Global Goals for Gender Equality, Inclusiveness, and UN Chartered Human Rights. She is well known as limitless enabler and global inclusiveness innovator with 23 years of experience to her credit. You can also follow her on LinkedIn. The link for the same has been shared in the chat window. I now hand over the platform to you, Ms. Raina. Over to you.
A very warm welcome to everybody out here. Very good afternoon. I'm sure all of you are signing in from India, so good afternoon to each one of you. But if you are signing from somewhere across, then yes, maybe good morning or good evening. As Sham has already, I read him as Sham, but I think he's Faisal, I'm not sure. Okay, one of the team members of HRAI. Thank you very much for introducing me. Yeah, that is Sham Gore. I am as excited as you are. I can see some of the chats already coming down to me. And very interestingly, today, you might have heard a lot about Posh. And if you don't really know about it also, I'm totally here to allow you to understand the nuances, the terminologies, each and every aspect in it, including where it has evolved and emerged from. We've already heard a lot about Posh, and you had already a panel discussion last week, which was more into understanding Posh in the hybrid sense. Today, if you are an owner or a private limited company or a proprietorship or a person working in the government sector, or an organization. Everybody has to follow this compliance, and that is what we know. Posh is Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act for Women at Workplace 2013, and it addresses three important things, and that is prevention, prohibition, and redressal. Okay. Uh, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for your lovely messages coming on the PM, coming on the messages. Uh, so when we are taking care of all these three aspects, it's not that the act has suddenly come in just probably a year back or 2 years back where we're talking so much about it. Why suddenly we look at plunging and talking about this is because uh, it has become a mandatory act ever since it has evolved, and there are many cases that are opening up. Organizations are looking at a high level implementation of each of them, and that is why we are here to understand where there are some pitfalls or some falsifications or some loopholes that we need to know when we are implementing it. Initially, let's look at least what is the law, how did it emerge, and then go into what can be the challenges as per the today's scenario, that's work from home. So with the pleasure of having you all, let's go to the point where you know about it. Okay, so I'm going to be launching this poll, and the poll is allowing me to understand what are the challenges you face when you deal with Posh in your organization, whether you're a newcomer, whether you have an idea, whether you are implementing as a presiding officer or as a council member. Please do take the poll and genuinely try and give the answers, so it will help us to understand together how do we help you. So I guess I have launched the poll. Are you able to see the poll? You can show me some thumbs up or maybe write on the chat.
Yes, we can see
Awesome.
the show. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sham. So over to you. Thank you, Sapna. Thank you, Faisal. Thank you, Nimesh. Okay, wonderful. That's awesome. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Sandeep. So all of you have done with the poll. Maybe you can bring it on and say, yes, it's BIO. It's bring it on and done. I can see some of you already said done, done, done. Thank you, Mahendra. Awesome. So we have 45 of us and 25 of you have done it. Waiting for the others. Good. 28 of you. Awesome. Thank you, Payal. Thank you, Annie. Wonderful. Thank you, Saloni. Thank you, Ayushi. Okay, 32 people out of 46. Thank you, Ruby. Thank you, Simran. Yes, Hero done. So we'll give you another 2 minutes. We are at 3:08. Try and finish by 3:10. Thank you, Radha. Thank you, Jyoti. Wonderful, Purnima. Thank you. Okay, so 10 of you are still pursuing it. We have about 10 of you are still pursuing it. Give your best answers. Come on, guys. That's okay if it's something that you are thinking about. Whatever is the right, appropriate answer you feel. Okay, so I'm just going to be sharing the results. Okay, can you see? The Posh Act should be implemented because a few of you have written mandatory, a few have it'll improve work culture. Of course, it's not fashionable, so it's not that. Okay. Want to see the next question? What are the challenges do you think? Go on to the next question. What challenges do you think the organization mostly finds difficulty on working and applicability of Posh? Okay. Have you clicked on that? Perfect. 100% of the people going in for move. Oh, wonderful. You can see the transitions happening. Interesting. Okay. Good. We finished 20 out of 49 people. Wonderful. Okay, so make a note of it. What are the challenges you are facing? Once I end the poll, I'm going to tell you that, because that's what we're here for, to find out what are the challenges and are we really looking at the right challenges and how can we overcome them. Yes, thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Hiral. Thank you, Neha. Okay, all done? So most of us are finding challenges based on how to detect the wrong behavior of employees, because most of the time we don't even know whether the person likes something, dislikes something, and how do we detect it. Or most of you are finding it difficult to follow compliances. Yes, report handling and submission, most of the time the IC member, the external member is supporting, and if you are an expert, then you should be knowing how to do it. And for that, I think there are some specific frameworks that you can follow, which we at Right to Rise ideally help when we are doing IC specialist programs and can be dealt with. But if you have certain things structured, it will help you to progress much more simpler. Okay. I'm going to launch the third questions. If you want, we can share the results of this. Okay. Okay, question number 3. How do you see the Posh Act implementation? Is it the responsibilities of... Come on, that's very simple, guys. Let's do that a little more quicker. Wonderful. That's amazing to see. Wow, you guys are awesome. Just so quick. We are at 29 already. Super. Okay. So all of you agree that implementation of Posh is basically not only the role of the trainer or the Posh consultant, but also it is the HR, the employees, the top management, because they are the stakeholders and they need to take care of all the aspects which is happening. Okay, so that's what your poll results are saying. We have around 32 people saying that. Okay, I'm going to end that poll as well and share the results with you. Okay. And the next question, finally, lack of proper redressal and Posh implementation leads to, if you don't have a proper redressal system, if you don't have somebody to take care of the case handling, somebody to do the Posh reports, take care of cases, to handle the interims, so that's all coming under the redressal and lot more. Lack of those proper redressal and Posh implementation leads to wonderful. I think you guys are really, really intelligent. I can see the votes showing that. And very quick too. Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you, Megha. Superb. So we end the polling and we shared the results for that question as well, which is all the above. Of course, the professional image of the company is gone, but it's still important for the company to know that there is something like this happening. Most companies don't even know. A threat and legal penalty, of course, that's the very direct implication. Losing good resources, your people would not want to stay in a company that is having any kind of abuse. I'm sure you and me understand that. And this is the final poll. How effective do you think? Okay, so that's to come at the end. Okay, so we will probably bring that in later.
Yes.
Okay, so you've kind of seen the overall questions of how and where we are finding it difficult. The challenges that we are facing, see, Posh was a law implemented for three important things: maintaining the dignity and rights of women, maintaining the right of life for a woman to work at workplace without any fear, and thirdly, allowing her to grow in a workplace which is free from abuse, harassment, or any other form. And maintaining that both men, women, and the other genders are aligned, because each of us have different thoughts. And today's world, we have even youngsters, we have even the mid-level, we have even the senior level, and many other aspects. But the true sense or the true glitches that we are finding in the law is that there are certain loopholes in the law which are not very clearly mentioned. Okay, and I'm just going to share the screen for you to see some part of the aspects on the PPT, and then we can go ahead with sharing what. So welcome all of you. Having the results of 4 questions that show you the challenges of Posh that we feel and how Posh can be implemented, whether redressal is only the ownership of the person who's taking the charge, or is it the HR, or together with the employees and top management and each one of us. Okay, I'm Mrs. Rena Khatri Tandon, the founder of Right to Rise and RKT Foundation. Welcome you to this session to talk about the practical aspects as to where we find trouble, where we are finding loopholes, where we can't implement Posh, and let's face how we can overcome that. Okay, so you've heard a lot about being inclusive, maintaining diversity, getting both men and women to talk to each other. Sometimes there are people who come and do the sessions with you, do refresher sessions, do awareness programs, and they are made to always give you a discussion. They are made to always brainstorm with you and ask you, where is that you fumble? And many men come up and always say, look, we don't know whether the women like it or not, because many a times their body language or their expressions don't give us an idea whether they have liked it, they have not liked it. And this is the point that we make it very clear to both genders, that you have to be upfront, or you have to speak out the right feeling that you are undergoing. Okay, it's not okay if you're going to smile over something that is not okay with you and move on, and it's not okay if you just silence out being very ignorant or innocent, or just pushing away the situation that maybe it's done by mistake, because sometimes the person might take it in the wrong way and might repeat the instance thinking that it's okay with you. Yes, there are stands where men and women are not able to speak to each other, then they need to find somebody in the ecosystem that they can speak to and bring up the topic, because it is important in today's world to let the other person know first that whatever he or she is doing is not acceptable. Posh is an act which very clearly says it's a zero tolerance act, number one. Number two, even though it's a zero tolerance act, we, as legal practitioners, as people who we are certifying other people to go and propagate the law, we need to be a little more resilient towards the other gender as well, to first find out whether it was intentional, non-intentional, whether their behavior has been repetitively showing this kind of abuse or harassment. Is there a little understanding or a little consolation that can happen with bringing up the point that what is right, what is wrong could be different for two individuals. So these are some of the major challenges that we find on how you and me should know that we feel uncomfortable about certain situations. And it is not the same for maybe two siblings, two friends, two people in the same household or in the same, because now we are working from home. So something that is okay with me may not be okay with another sibling of mine or a child of mine who's working in the same company, who's being a youth interning there, or it could be different for the other family member. So these are some of the challenges. Now, the other challenges that we face could be setting up the committee, could be bringing up the policy. Now, most of the companies are working with new work from home changed policies, but some of them are still ignorant and they feel, okay, that's totally fine. Why should we actually change? I'm sure all of us are working from home and there are no situations arisen, but it's better to be safe than to be sorry, we say. So prevention is always better than cure. You need to reframe that policy according to the norms of the act, keeping in mind what are the working ways of every company. Okay. Now we have seen the poll, we've seen the views that you have brought in, and some of the aspects say that the challenges we are facing is not in reports, not in handling compliances, but mostly understanding the background behind the law. That is, how do we, the top-down approach, how do we handle cases, how do we mediate and reconcile, how do we go ahead and maybe file the cases to or make the annual reports and the audit reports, and some kind of preventive measures so that this reoccurrence doesn't happen. Now, for the reoccurrences not to happen, you have to file down every action that is happening. Whether it's a small thing or a big thing, start making a practice to report the entire incident. It is very important that you report every small occurrences that come to the IC as a complaint. You never know. The lady might turn around and say that, it was done by fault or it was a mistake, or, I want to take back the approach and then go later and appeal. Or there could be a man who's wrong or the respondent, and he could turn around and be somebody who's very futile or somebody who tries and brings up another topic or goes to the criminal court of law. So it's always better to have your records in place. Even if you don't have the proper criminal procedure recordings, reportings, you don't have certain recording equipment, it is still important that you make at least the written reports. Even now, even during the hybrid working spaces where we are interrogating, getting statements from people, it is important that you bring down the reports, get it signed, uh, get it approved by all the other bodies like the HR, the CEO, the other stakeholders, the respondent, the witnesses, everybody, and maintain those documents under lock and key. Okay. Yes. So what are the different aspects that you should be focused on? The root cause, where does it lie? So many of us, we think diversity and inclusion is just when we start accepting each other in the right way, when we allow people to grow, when we are not judging those people. But India is basically already a diverse country. When we talk about other aspects in diversity and inclusion, sometimes I wonder, uh, what kind of diversity and inclusion are we talking about? We already have diverse cultures, we already have diverse dialects, we have people from different cities, we have people who are from different backgrounds. We are already very diverse. So the root cause is not diversity and inclusion. The root cause is the perspectives that we are holding towards man and women. Okay, we already have a culture, whether you say it we are patriarchal based, whether we say that we are following our norms of our forefathers, where they say that, a lady is always dependent on a man for all her aspects, or a man can be only doing certain tasks. we need to understand it's not about those aspects, it's only about two things. How do we communicate in our personal and professional spaces that reflects even at workplace? And second, the communication methodology. How are we communicating? What is the language we use? And is the bias being showed all the time? You need to navigate, you need to watch every situation that is happening in your personal and professional lives, because they will be somewhere interconnected, and that itself will show you whether you are biased or unbiased. And sometimes unconscious bias gives a very disrespectful language out at workplace, during meetings, whether you're offline or online, whether you're working now in hybrid places or tomorrow we are off the pandemic and we start working face to face. Our brain functions in the same way, in the same pattern all the time. We are not different individuals. We can't be different at personal space, different at professional space, different to A and different to B. Okay, we need to understand at every scenario, at every role play that we do, whether we are a mother, whether we are a manager, whether we are a buddy, whether we are a team player, we will still be talking about the same perspectives in the same bias mode. Don't you agree, guys? I'm going to stop the screen share and see what you feel, because it's like not a one-way system all the time. You need to also allow me. Are you with me? Yeah. So I can hear two yes. Okay, agree. Deepak ji, Nimesh ji, Vedant, Radha, Neha, are you guys around? Shivani ji, Saloni, Amit. Awesome. I can see some of the people who are there. Simran, Suchi. Great. So what I'm trying to tell you is that, yes, so I can hear some answers. Yes, I believe gender inequality is one of the reasons. Yeah. So on the broader scale, we start using very, very big terms like let's get sensitized, let's get gender equal, let's start breaking the glass ceiling, let's start looking at a broader perspective of bringing diversity and inclusion. All those words are good to hear. Come down to the more simpler version. Let's understand each other. Why do we react like this? Okay, there are a lot of other things that we need to focus on. One, uh, the act will tell you follow certain norms. The act will tell you that this act was devised early 1992 when we had the CEDAW, the Convention of Elimination of Discrimination of Women, and we had the Bhavri Devi case, which set it the context of getting this law so provisionally into our system that we need dignity, rights of women at workplace. And yes, this is not like a womanizing law. This is not like only, it is biased towards women because still you and me will agree that even though we are highly empowered, we run companies, we are very, very self-sufficient, women can do anything, but yet under power and position, still women are seen under the vulnerable class. It is not easy for you to uh, not agree that women are still on the vulnerable part. Yep, you'll agree with it. So keeping that in mind, I think the law is still working only towards posh of women. That is why we have not been able to get man into the posh laws, because even there are many petitions that have been given, they are all being knocked down, saying that the reason for it is we still find women under the class where, you know, not everything can be won against her. Now let's look at the act. There are certain stakeholders. There's this respondent, the person who does the abuse, there is the aggrieved woman, there are workplaces, there's employer, there's employee. And the different workspaces now has been changed. So according to section 4.1, where we talk about the IC committee getting framed, and then we talk about the LC getting framed at section 6, and we're talking about the district officer. So these are different stakeholders. Now, in the present scenario, under section 2, when we are defining the workplace, workplace earlier used to be the place where work has been done. In aspects to that, now work is work from home. So your home becomes the workplace. Now this can be any place where you guys are working from. So even if you're working from a tent, if you're working from a household, if you're working with the I mean, you're sharing a house with somebody. So that kind of, whether you're in a flat, whether you're in a bungalow, it can be any kind of workplace where you are getting work done. So that comes under the workplace. So the definition of workplace has become more broader. Secondly, when we are saying that this law has to be followed, IC committee has to be more than 50% women. We are not clearly defining should it be 5 members, should it be 4 members. And the act says very clearly we need 4 members, out of which one external member. Now, when it becomes a bigger company, then it becomes more members. Even though it says 4 members, we are still looking at more members so that the system can be created ethically. And why we as company legislative bodies have 5 members in the committee is because the decision making of any of the case hearings becomes very easy, and there are more members, so it becomes flexible for the members not to be always present. Second, when we are dealing with the law and the act, the other loophole that we find as challenges is that when we are solving the case, the act is looking at saying that at least 3 members should be present for every case hearing or for any conciliation. Okay, but it doesn't very clearly say that out of the 3, every time the external member has to be there. So that also is another loophole. A third loophole and a third challenge is that, while filing the reports, should we make a report when we're having a simple case? Should we not have a report when conciliation is done? Conciliation does not have to be done monetarily, we know that. And it only can be done when the lady is ready and when the lady comes to you and says she's ready for conciliation. But that creates so much of a stress for an organization. If I'm running a company, think about it, okay? If I'm running a company and I want to solve 2 people's case that has come to me, what the law says is only if the lady comes to you and says she's ready for conciliation, then conciliation can happen. It has to happen non-monetarily. Second, but if I, as an organization leader, feel that I want to start the conciliation mediation and I want to initiate it, there is nothing written in the law. That's the third loophole that we find. So, like this, there are many challenges even for the penalties. How do we decide on the penalties? Though IC has been given the powers of the civil court, we don't know exactly which penalty to give based on whatever the abuse has happened or the case has come in. So the IC committee has to be properly trained. Let me tell you, friends, we have IC committee, we have LC committee. IC committee is set up in every company where more than 10 employees are working, and we know, you and me know. We should have a non-defanged committee. We should have a proper framed committee. Framing of committee is very important. Right to Rise works very much on how a committee can be framed, which are the members it chooses, how does it choose, and what are the requirements. I'm sure I have no idea of any other person or body who's doing this in selection of the proper requirements of IC members and how they can be trained. We all do IC committee training, but we need to be competent and skilled in handling reports, cases, and not every case needs to get into an inquiry. It needs to be solved very skillfully. So that skill can be taught to the company professionals, and they can themselves be capable enough to handle it. Unconscious bias. See, we say, let's not have bias, let's not have judgment, let's not think of the respondent and aggrieved and give them a biased result when they are coming to us. But if you reflect 2 minutes, every time that we are looking at people, every time that we are interacting with people, we do get into this judgmental mode, right? Every first time when you meet somebody, even when you're meeting people nowadays online, the minute you see that person, you judge that person and you make a perception about him, right? So why would a person sitting in the ICC suddenly become different? Unless and until he knows the laws of natural justice, he knows that there is fair hearing need to be done, you need to be calm, you need to be resilient, need to hear both the parties well, you need to give a statement of report to both the parties, you cannot get any other person to defend his own case. So principles of natural justice do tell you that as a legal practitioner, follow it. But there will be sometimes IC members having this unconscious bias sitting in the seat and doing any form of wrong to either the respondent or the aggrieved. So a proper check, I would say a check to yourself and the other members have to be consistently done as a meeting Maybe you can have some kind of a skill requirement assessment done, which can help you understand. IC strictly follows the competent guidelines as per the Act. This has to be done to the T. Please do not assume certain circumstances when you are sitting on the IC seat. Yes, we have been given the powers of the civil court, but we do not override and start using powers of the Supreme Court or the High Court, where we think that we are the judging body. Secondly, sometimes we don't know what to do and we incompetently send the case hearings to the LCC, or in case there is an appeal made to the police. And the IC starts um, feeling that since the case is already gone to the police, I should stop working. I would say, with the facts that you have, with the facts that the aggrieved woman and the respondent is giving you, treat the case as your case and please deal with it. Let the police do its work. Let the case be handled by the appeal. But you consistently work on the case as per your facts. That will not only give a proper report to your closing of your case, but also it will help the other body, the police, the appellant body, whoever is coming into the case, if they are being called in. Okay, so these are the challenges that most people face. I really wanted to give it to you, and I'm sure you want to see them. Yes or no? You don't want to see them, I don't give it to you. Are you ready for it? Let me see some yes. Can we see some yes or maybe a thumbs up? Okay, I can see Hiral. Yes, yes, yes. Come on, let me see all your yeses. Are you with me or are you off to sleep? I know it's a very dangerous 3 o'clock. Cool. Maybe you could have just get your mug of coffee and tea. Awesome. I can see a lot of yeses now. So I'm just going to show you now what can be the challenges that I feel with my experience that I am dealing with. Yes, I do have a very experiential background in dealing with Posh. So some of the aspects that you need to know is definition and implications. A lot of us in the company, employees, in the front end staff, the interns, the first time managers, the first time employees, the clients, the vendors, the stakeholders, when we are doing Posh awareness of the programs have to be done on a periodic basis. Very often, please do them. I know the law says do it only once or twice in a year, but awareness is the key to keeping your people always updated. Definition of legal terms, who are the bodies, who are the committees, what are the non-compliance features, what are the things right and wrong, who are the supporting members, who are the interim relief people, how do you get a presiding officer, who is the person to go to. All these legal terms and implications of not following the law should be known to everybody. Discussion on the actions and implementation. What will happen when you do what? What are the mandatory requirements of signing up? What are the implementation requirements? How does the case proceedings move, whether you're reconciling, whether you're mediating or getting into an inquiry? Statutory requirements for reporting. So reporting procedures also follow certain documentation analogy. If you simplify your process by having a proper requirement for reporting, that would help you. If you don't have, then yes, you can get in touch with us. We have only reports that can be delivered to you if you really have the requirement. Role of leaders, their tone on the top. This is not ever spoken, but the implications of many of the Posh cases is only because of the tone of the members at the top management. Sometimes it is not about bigger things, it's about smaller things. Again, coming down to communication, and the attitude of work in a cultured organization. Every organization has a very different approach and culture when they work. But the role of the leader is to set a tone. What is expected in the organization? What are we following as ethics, values, core systems, and what is agreed and not agreed as per the mandate of the terms and conditions when you enter the organization. And this should be reiterated time and again every fortnightly or maybe every 2 months, so that the people in the employees who are working there understand that these are the policies and these are the statutory requirements, these are the code of conduct, harassment policies, anti-harassment policies, non-dating policies, other policies, and what are the things that I have in my kitty, what are the things that I have signed, why should I mandatorily follow them. Applicability and management mandate. The need for devising and disseminating an internal policy. IC policy should be framed every 6 months to 1 year. Why we say that is because our situations are not very stagnant. We have very undecisive situations every time. Sometimes we are working from home, sometimes we're working on blended, sometimes we're working on a hybrid system, sometimes we're working only on physical systems. Certain uh, sectors of work are only working face to face, like manufacturing or rental estate and other things. So it is important that you understand every time there is a need of refreshing the policy and disseminating. If you are skilled, being in the organization is easy for you to keep reframing them. So get skilled to learn how a certified professional can make a policy if you don't want to hire somebody constantly from out. Requirement and methods of creating awareness among various hierarchies. What are the processes and the systems that you can create to implement Posh? Are there communities that can be created? Are there support help groups? Need for procedure of a constituting of IC in the hybrid mode. How do we constitute it? How do we work on it? What can be the conversation around this in an organization? We can just have a casual meet, like how you and me are meeting now. We can have a healthy, inclusive place, talk about what they feel, what employees feel. Are they feeling inhibited somewhere? Just have a casual get together, sometimes online, understanding how the workplace culture is. Is it inclusive? It is blended? Is it somewhere the creativity is coming out? Or is it feeling too bogged down and stressed? Handling of complaints. We've not been following the mandated rules as per the Act, because the Act does not give any step-by-step procedure. It just says the duties of the employers are this. You need to submit the annual reports, you need to do awareness programs, you need to have a skilled IC, but it doesn't tell you how maybe an interrogation, investigation, or process handling is done. Different scenarios are faced by management, so they're stuck. You feel stuck all the time. Okay, now this situation has come, how do I handle this? I need to get to the advisory. If this situation has come, how do I handle? I need to get back to the external. So unless those situations and case-based scenarios are not explained well to you and done on a systematic basis, you will not be able to, because every person, every case is different. So keep updating yourself on that. Responding to complaints reported by management, dealing with challenges. So there can be anonymous complaints, there can be certain aspects coming now from social networking websites. Are they coming under Posh? Are they not coming under Posh? If the concepts of the law is very strongly built in you, you will not have these issues. Okay. So yes, a lot that has been said. A major thing that I would like to request you is, see, after the enactment of this act, I know everything is written in the act, but there are many things that are unsaid and unspoken. Focus on awareness and awareness time and again, consistently, periodically, and just knowing the act, just listening to a panel, just listening to a knowledge session will give you the norms and following policies. But knowing the protocols, knowing the law doesn't mean that you stop following it. Okay, a lot of us feel, okay, I know a lot, I know the policies, I know the law. So we just exempt from reporting small abusive situations, and you never know when this small situation can become a big one. So please report them, please maintain documents, and stay safe, because sometimes the situation could be vice versa, where it comes down to you and then you need to address it. At least you have something as documentation where you can talk about. So thank you very much for listening to me. That's Mrs. Rana Khatri Tandon, founder of Right to Rise. If you have any queries, you can get in touch with us, and you can surely also get in touch with HRAI. They have our details. Thank you, and all over to you for the Q&A.
Thank you, Raina. So before we move ahead into Q&A session, we will be initiating a poll. Request all the participants to kindly share your feedback. While you're doing so, request all the participants to kindly post their questions in the chat window. Once again, thank you so much, our participants. We have received a lot of inquiry about these certifications offered by HRAI. You can claim your certificate by sharing your details, that is name and session attended, in an email to the email address provided in the chat window. Please ensure you do this by 30th of June 2021. We will email the e-certificates to you based on the details received latest by first week of Jan July 21st.
Thank you, Mickey. Thank you, Radha. Thank you, Manali. Thank you, Shivani ji. Thank you. Thank you, Sapna. Thank you, Ilag. Thank you, Faisal. Parvati ji, Mega.
Okay. So, ma'am, we have received a couple of questions during the registration.
Yes.
Let's read out them. Okay. So, when is Posh applicable to the organization? What is the minimum employee number required for it?
Okay, so Posh is applicable for every organization, whether it is small or big. Yes, if your question is, do we have an IC committee? An IC committee needs to be framed when we have employee strength of more than 10 employees in the organization. And if you have less than 10, then you have to get yourself enrolled with a local committee, that is LCC, which is there in every district, in every city, and they will take care of the cases. But every setup, ideally, we say even a small proprietorship firm, if run by a one person or a OPC, even those should follow Posh. But it's not a mandate to even register a proprietorship. So why would you follow Posh compliances? So it's okay if you are a small company having 8 to 10 people, then you should follow Posh. Anything smaller than that, absolutely your call. But yes, the law says follow the mandate, follow the law, and that would be much better for you and me, because on the long run, we never know when we are going to get registered with the government, and you might have a protocol to follow 100% then. So let's follow the law now.
Okay. Okay. And there is one more question which talks about how can we build a Posh committee in the organization? Who all can be part of this team and what are the activities they are accountable for?
Okay, so there are a lot of duties that IC committee needs to perform. Who can become the part of an IC committee? There are certain requirements. There's no requirements mentioned in the law other than one, that all the members should be either having worked with women associations or women organizations or an NGO, or somebody who understands the law, legal and the law aspects of Posh. Okay, it doesn't say that you have to be an advocate or a lawyer anywhere. In the Posh Act, it is very clearly written that it is preferred to have a person from the legal background, but it could be somebody from an NGO background, could be somebody who's worked with women associations for more than ideally 7-8 years to understand how it works. But yes, there are 4 members that is mandatory required, and each of them hold tenure position for 3 years. One is the presiding officer, who's always the woman who's more senior most in the organization. Then you have a male member, 2 female members. One of them should also be an external member. So 4 members ideally are there. But since you're dealing with cases, you're dealing with observations, you're dealing with reports, we always keep 5, because it's easier to come to a consensus of a result outcome when you are an odd number of participants in the IC. Uh, yes, so ideally 5 members, one external, one male member, 2 female members, and your presiding officer. These members and their selection process have no requirements mentioned in the law, which is again just mentioning that they can be any one of these which I've mentioned. But we have created certain protocols where we understand how they can be picked and chosen. And yes, they are kind of appropriately working, and many organizations have found that very, very useful, because they like the right person to be used in their IC committee, and that flows very without any problems, so that they don't have any cases coming in.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is one question from Neha. How can an
Yes.
HR department can create awareness about Posh and women's safety in organization? What all trainings are necessary?
So obviously, to create more safety about women, we need to do a lot about Posh awareness. Again, there are women rights. Again, there are policies that organization is following. Some follow a lot of policies like code of conduct and harassment policy, anti-harassment policy, e-learning policy, non-dating policy. So now that we are work from home, I think most of the policies are only written format, but a lot of companies are following code of conduct and anti-dating and understanding what is harassment, what is sexual harassment, doing the Posh awareness, what are women rights. Some of them even do a lot about maternity benefit act and what is the norms as per the domestic violence act and all, because now being at home, I think we are more stressed and irritated, so we need to know even aspects that are causing them. So a lot of them are taking care of women, either doing an anti-stress training or probably working on what are the laws that they need to know to keep themselves safe, which is very good. Some self-defense programs are also happening for people who really want to show self-defense. I think it's not the right time to do self-defense because then we are causing more violence. But yes, that's also taken in another way that you can do a lot of mindfulness trainings and stress-free trainings that many companies are doing. Yeah, gender sensitization, Posh awareness, a lot to do with yeah, most of them are these only, and compliance training. So more to do with skill building of also one very important training that I have come across in the last few days is people want to know how can you detect the other person is uncomfortable. So it is like just a little intervention where you are trying to figure out what could be the different stance that a person is can detect that the other party or the other gender is uncomfortable about. So they are kind of having those kind of trainings which are a little different from just having Posh trainings, because Posh is a law and I think most of them are a little aware. um, if you are keen in any of these different trainings, then yes, you can always stay in touch and we can do it.
And there is this question from Saloni, but in a work from home scenario like now, how do you create posh awareness amongst employees apart from e-learnings and ILTS?
So yeah, you can have small groups discussions, you can have brainstorming sessions, you can have a lot of drama driven activities, you can have a lot of fun sessions and then bringing out the essence. um, See, again, all these interventions are only possible when you're a close knit organization and there is a top down approach to it. Okay, it's very easy saying you can have mindfulness activities, you can have drama based driven, theater based driven activities, you can have movies which are showcased or show screen, just like you have big theaters showing show screen. Now you've stopped having theaters. That's an idea that struck me just now, that you can have something where a screening is done and for about half an hour and then you discuss over it. Something like that can create more awareness, because people are really fed up about just being on the ILT or just being on a discussion, or all those things are done and are gone. Okay, how much can you assimilate knowledge on the e-learning platform or on a discussion? People like to be intervened, people like to present their views and perspectives about, and hearing their views, I think the other person understands that it's okay for me to come to a bridge that I might think differently over the same scenario and there's somebody else who's thinking differently. I need to open my perspectives and somewhere give a little bridge to and a space for people to understand that it's okay to have a different point of view on the same discussion. So yes, yeah,
Wonderful.
it's
Uh,
compulsory to have at least one member who is a law graduate, somebody who understands law in terms of Posh. Okay, not a law graduate, but somebody who's from the legal background, we say. I don't know whether it should be a LLM, it should be a BLLM or a legal aspect, but yes, I have done my LLM post I becoming a Posh practitioner and many different certifications. And I've also submitted my thesis and got a PhD into psychology and human rights. But What I'm saying is that's very pertinent that the person understands the in and out of Posh. If he doesn't understand the law, if he doesn't understand the implementation, then probably he cannot guide you if you are bringing him on panel or on advisory. So the law says anybody who's from the legal background, anybody who's from the NGO, or somebody who's worked with women associations for over a period of few years.
There is this one. Okay, there's one more question coming in.
Yeah.
How many times Posh training is mandatory in a year as per law in the
So
organization?
as per the section in the law, as per the clauses, it's just saying ideally once a year.
Once a year.
But there are people who are doing minimum twice or thrice in a year, as of now, not more than 3 times. Yeah.
Okay, so Ryan, if I have to ask you to sum up the entire discussion 1 hour into 3 or 4 pointers, how would you just keep it short to the audience and takeaways, the key takeaways kind of thing.
Awesome. So I would just say focus on the awareness on consistent periodic interval, follow the strict policies of the law. Uh, the top-down approach has to be right for you to maintain the statutory requirements and maintain the communication tone to each person, and keep a very open mindset, because different people respond to different complaints, and even on hybrid mode it's very difficult to assess a person's mindset. So it is as difficult for legal practitioners to solve cases when being online. So I would say just be a little more open-minded to understand that a person can be different. Otherwise, I think all good to go, stay safe and stay around. Yeah.
Beautifully answered there. So thank you, Ms. Maina, for this insightful and enlightening session. I'm sure all our participants has learned a lot about Posh in true sense. This has been a one pleasure, a wonderful session and pleasure being with you today. So before we conclude with our today's session, we would also want to thank the association members, that is Gishia, NASCOM COE, LinkedIn Local, Telgro, TLE, WCCI, and Gliptalk for supporting these HRAI events. To know more about this association, request you all to kindly visit the links provided in the chat window. Thank you once again, dear speakers and our participants, for joining us today. Do join us for our next masterclass tomorrow on the topic How to Make a Great Virtual Impression, a session by Ms. Mukta Bahrani, the corporate trainer and image consultant, the Better Zone, on the 22nd of June 2021. Request you to kindly register for this event at the link mentioned in the chat window. Also, do join the Dialogue 2021 WhatsApp chat group through the invite link shared in the chat window. That's it from our end today. Stay safe, take care, bye for now, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sapna, for attending. Okay, Peter, we can conclude the session. Thank you so much.